Your heart pounds as you sit alone in a dimly lit cafe, the clink of cups fading into the background, a gnawing sense that you're not living your own life. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, molded to follow rules that crush your spirit. This is a jagged truth. Your strength, your fire, was smothered by a world that fears your power. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who slashed through society's illusions, saw this with brutal clarity. You're not powerless. You've been trained to act like you are. Over the next half hour, you'll uncover how obedience was drilled into you, how society keeps you compliant, and how Nietzsche's fierce wisdom can shatter your chains. By the end, you'll see your potential not as a dream, but as a force you can claim, transforming into the untamed self you were born to be. Let's ignite this rebellion. The weight of obedience is familiar, even if you've never named it. It's there when you swallow your words in a heated argument, afraid to upset the balance, your throat tight with unspoken truth. It's in the exhaustion after another day at a job that drains you, where you follow orders instead of your instincts. It's the hesitation before chasing a bold idea, that inner voice warning, don't rock the boat. Nietzsche would call this the cage of compliance, built from years of conditioning. He believes society tames your will to power, your drive to create, to thrive, turning you into a shadow of your potential, obedient to its script. Picture a moment it held you back. You're at a friend's gathering, the conversation turning to something you're passionate about, but you stay quiet, fearing judgment, remembering times your enthusiasm was met with smirks. Or think of a workplace where you agreed to a task you despised, just to avoid seeming difficult. Nietzsche's lens reveals these as thefts of your strength. In his philosophy, he argued that your natural vitality is buried under social rules, designed to keep you docile. You weren't born to follow. You were shaped to, and that shaping began before you could resist. This wasn't your fault. As a child, you were wild, unafraid, demanding what you wanted with fearless clarity. But the world stepped in. A parents don't talk back. A teachers follow the rules. A siblings tease for being too much. These moments taught you to shrink, to prioritize approval over instinct. Society rewarded compliance with smiles, grades, acceptance, while defiance brought punishment. Psychologists confirm this. Early socialization wires you to seek belonging, often at the cost of your individuality. By adulthood, obedience feels like second nature, but it's a lie, a chain you didn't choose. Doubt creeps in, but I'm not that obedient. I make choices. That's the trap. Obedience hides as duty, practicality, or being responsible. You stay in a dead-end job because it's stable, or avoid tough talks to keep peace. Not because it's you, but because you were taught it's right. You've seen it in others. The colleague who never questions the boss, terrified of conflict, or the friend who clings to toxic ties, too dutiful to break free. Their chains, like yours, are invisible, woven into everyday life. The cafe's dim light flickers, mirroring the storm inside you. Nietzsche's truth lands hard. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, your strength buried by a world that fears it. The weight of those silenced moments, those swallowed instincts, presses on you. But how did this obedience take root? When did you first learn to dim your fire for the sake of others? The cafe's hum fades as you trace a finger along the worn edge of your coffee cup. Memories of childhood flooding back like an old, half-forgotten song. That gnawing sense from the cafe's dim light, the realization that your strength was buried under obedience, pulls you deeper into the past. You weren't born to follow. You were molded to, shaped by voices and rules before you could fight back. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his fierce contempt for conformity, would call this the birth of your chains, forged in your earliest years when your fire was tamed. Those moments of be quiet and do as you're told weren't just lessons. They were the start of a lifelong habit of compliance. And now you're seeing how it began, a truth that cuts like a blade. Childhood wasn't all joy and freedom. Picture a moment at 6, maybe when you ran through the yard, shouting with wild glee, only for a parent to snap, "Settle down." You froze, your laughter dying, learning that your energy was too much. Or think of a time you questioned a rule, why you had to eat something you hated, and got a sharp "because I said so." You swallowed your protest, your curiosity dimmed. Nietzsche would see these as the first thefts of your will to power, your natural drive to assert, to be. He argued that society begins its work early, turning bold spirits into obedient shadows to fit its order. Dig into a specific memory. You're 9, in class, bursting to share an idea, but the teacher cuts you off, saying, "Wait your turn," then praises a quieter kid for following rules. You sank into your seat, cheeks hot, vowing to be good next time. That vow stuck, didn't it? Nietzsche's philosophy exposes this as the start of your conditioning. Psychologists agree. Children internalize norms through discipline, learning to suppress impulses for approval. Your strength, your questions, your energy was punished, replaced with a reflex to obey, to avoid the sting of rejection. This wasn't random. Your world, home, school, neighborhood was a training camp. Parents, often with love, enforced rules to make you fit in. Don't argue. Share your toys. Respect elders. Schools doubled down, grading you on compliance. Neat handwriting, straight lines, not on boldness. Even games had rules. Step out of bounds and you're out. Nietzsche would scoff, seeing this as society's plot to tame your fire. By adolescence, you'd learn to check yourself, to fear standing out. Psychologists note that early conformity shapes adult behavior, making you prioritize safety over instinct. Those childhood corrections weren't just moments. They were chains, forged link by link. Doubt might stir, but those rules taught me respect, not weakness. Respect often masks control. Rules weren't just about manners. They taught you to put others' comfort above your truth. You've seen it in others. The sibling who never rebels, always good, but seems empty, or the friend who apologizes for existing, afraid to take space. Their compliance, like yours, was born when defiance felt unsafe. Psychologists warn that over-socialized kids grow into adults who struggle to assert themselves, trapped by a need to please. Your chains were built with care, but they're chains nonetheless. Culture sealed the deal. Stories you loved, fairy tales, cartoons, glorified obedience. The hero who follows orders wins, the rebel gets punished. TV showed good kids as quiet, compliant, while bad ones were loud, free. Nietzsche would call this propaganda for the herd, dulling your strength to keep society neat. You felt it in moments when you sense a fire inside, a boldness you rarely unleash. That fire was yours before the world taught you to smother it, to obey instead of shine. The coffee cup's warmth grounds you, but Nietzsche's truth stings. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, shaped by a childhood that feared your power. Those early lessons, from settle down to wait your turn, chained your spirit. But why do these chains hold you now? What keeps you bowing to a world that wants you small? The cafe's coffee cup sits cold now, its steam long gone, as you step out into the bustling street, where neon signs and hurried footsteps press against you. That childhood memory, the teacher's "wait your turn," the parents' "settle down," still echoes, a reminder of how obedience was etched into your bones. But here, in the city's pulse, you feel it again. You nod to a stranger's request, hold back a sharp reply to a rude coworker, move with the crowd's flow. You're no longer a child, yet you obey, not out of choice but reflex, as if the world's weight demands it. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his searing scorn for the herd, called this society's control web, a tangle of norms, fears, and systems spun to keep you submissive. This web isn't just personal, it's everywhere, pulling you to bow. And seeing it now is like waking from a dream, sharp and unsettling. This web has caught you before. Picture a moment at work, where you stayed silent as a manager pushed a flawed idea, your gut screaming to object, but your lips sealed, fearing the fallout. Or think of a family dinner, where you dodged a tense topic to keep things civil, even though your truth burned to be spoken. Nietzsche would see these as the web tightening, society's way of stifling your strength. He argued that the world thrives on your compliance, weaving systems, jobs, relationships, culture to ensure you stay in line, your power dulled for its convenience. Dig into a specific memory. You're at a community event, asked to volunteer for a task you don't believe in. You agree, smiling, but inside resentment churns. You didn't want to, but saying no felt wrong, risky. That's the control web, Nietzsche would say, spun from fear of rejection, conflict, or standing out. Psychologists back this. Studies on social conformity show people often suppress their instinct to avoid being ostracized, even when they know better. Your smile wasn't kindness. It was obedience shaped by a world that punishes defiance. This web is intricate, relentless. At work, promotions go to those who fit the culture, not those who challenge it. In friendships, unspoken rules dictate what you can say, who you can be, lest you lose the group. Media reinforces it, selling images of success, conformity dressed as wealth or popularity, while rebels are mocked or ignored. Nietzsche saw this as deliberate, a machine to crush your will to power, your drive to create, to lead. Think of school, where you were graded for following instructions, not for bold ideas, or family, where don't make waves was the mantra. Society doesn't want your strength, it wants your silence. Skepticism might rise, but I push back sometimes. I'm not a puppet. Even your rebellion is often trapped in the web. You argue online, but still clock into a job you hate. You vent to a friend, but avoid rocking the boat at home. These are safe defiances, still within society's bounds. Psychologists note that partial rebellion can reinforce conformity, letting you feel free while staying leashed. You've seen it in others. The coworker who rants about the system but never quits, or the relative who breaks one rule but clings to others, terrified of true freedom. Their obedience, like yours, is woven into a web that rewards compliance. The web's genius is its disguise. It cloaks obedience as virtue, teamwork, respect, sacrifice. You're taught that putting others first is noble, that questioning authority is rude. Nietzsche would laugh bitterly, calling this a lie to keep you small. You felt it when you choose harmony over truth, when you dim your fire to fit in. Psychologists warn that chronic conformity can erode identity, leaving you disconnected from your core. The world's web, its deadlines, expectations, judgments, isn't neutral. It's a trap, pulling you from your strength, keeping you tame. Outside, the street's neon blares, but Nietzsche's truth cuts through. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, ensnared by society's control web that fears your power. The weight of those silenced truths, those forced smiles, presses harder. But what's the toll of this obedience? What have you lost by bowing to a world that wants you small? Rain patters on your coat as you stand under a flickering street lamp, the city's neon glow fading into the mist. The streets bustle, that forced smile at the community event, the echo of settle down from childhood. They all collide, revealing the web of obedience that binds you. You followed the rules, kept quiet, played your part, but a void gnaws at you, a sense that something vital is missing. Obedience hasn't just shaped you, it's robbed you, stealing the strength you were born with. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his unflinching gaze, called this the heavy price of conformity. You sacrifice your true power for a life that's safe but hollow. This toll, this loss of your fire, is what you're feeling now, a truth that aches like the cold seeping through your clothes. This loss has marked you before. Picture a moment you chose duty over desire. Maybe you stayed in a career that crushed your spirit, too afraid to leap into the unknown, even though your dreams whispered for more. You kept the job, but each day dulled your edge, your passion fading. Or think of a friendship where you hid your true feelings to avoid conflict, only to feel unseen, your voice a ghost. Nietzsche would call this the death of your will to power, your drive to live boldly, authentically. Conformity doesn't just limit you. It erases you piece by piece, leaving a shadow where your strength should burn. Dig into a specific memory. You're at a family gathering, your cousin pushing an idea you know is flawed, but you nod, avoiding a fight, even though your chest tightens with unspoken truth. Later, alone, you felt smaller, as if you betrayed yourself. That's the price, Nietzsche would say. He warned that bowing to the herd kills your individuality, your spark. Psychologists echo this. Suppressing your true self can trigger anxiety, depression, even physical stress. People who conform too long often feel disconnected, as if they're living a stranger's life. Your nod wasn't peace. It was a theft your strength surrendered to the web. The toll is measurable. You've missed chances because obedience taught you to doubt. That passion project you never started, fearing failure? That honest conversation you avoided, worried about rejection? Each act of compliance cost you growth, joy, authenticity. Nietzsche saw conformity as a predator, devouring your potential to live fiercely. Think of the energy you burn pleasing others, smiling through frustration, agreeing to keep harmony. Psychologists note that constant adaptation to social norms drains mental reserves, leaving you too tired to chase what matters. You've seen it in others. The friend who never says no, always exhausted, or the colleague who follows every rule but seems lifeless. Their power, like yours, has been bled dry by obedience. A protest might rise, but obedience keeps things stable. It's practical. That's the web's lie, promising safety while caging you. Nietzsche despised this trade, urging you to risk chaos for truth. You felt it in those quiet moments, staring into the void, wondering, is this who I am? That's your strength, crying out, buried under years of compliance. Obedience offers security, but delivers stagnation. You've clung to jobs, relationships, routines that don't serve you, not because they're right, but because you're taught to endure, to obey. The cost is your aliveness, your ability to shape a life that's yours. Society hides this loss with distractions, work, media, routine, so you don't notice the hollowness growing. Psychologists warn that chronic conformity can lead to learned helplessness, where you stop believing in your power to change. You've sensed it when you feel trapped, unable to break free, as if your strength was never real. Nietzsche's truth is stark. Obedience doesn't save you. It stars you, leaving you fractured half alive. You've seen the toll in those moments when you catch yourself going through the motions, your fire barely a flicker, lost to a world that demands you bow. The street lamp buzzes, rain pooling at your feet, and Nietzsche's lesson lands like thunder. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, and that obedience has cost you your strength, your soul spark. The weight of those lost chances, those silenced truths, presses down. But how do you reclaim what's been stolen? How do you break free and seize the power you were meant to wield? The rain-soaked street lamp hums as you walk away, the city's mist curling around you, that ache from the family gathering's silence still pulsing. You've nodded through lies, buried your truth, paid the price of obedience with your fire. But now, a spark ignites, a refusal to stay caged. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, and you're done letting that define you. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his fierce call to unleash the will to power, lays out a path to break these chains, to reclaim the strength society stole. This isn't about fleeting rebellion. It's about owning your truth, defying the web's pull, and forging a life where you shine unapologetically. The spark grows, electric and raw, urging you to act to shatter the mold. Defiance has stirred in you before. Picture a moment you pushed back. Maybe you turned down a draining invitation, your voice steady despite the guilt, a rush of freedom in your chest. Or think of a time you challenged a coworker's bad idea, risking tension but feeling alive, your words cutting through the haze. These were glimpses of Nietzsche's path, moments when you chose your strength over compliance. You believe your power lies in asserting your will, in rejecting rules that dim your fire. Breaking free means acting on your truth, speaking, creating, refusing to bow, even when the world pushes back. Try it now. Feel that spark, the one resisting the gathering's nod, the street's forced smile. What's one rule you've followed too long? Staying silent to avoid conflict, or overworking to prove your worth? Name it, then picture defying it, speaking up in the next debate, leaving work unfinished to reclaim your time. Nietzsche would demand action, not just thought. Psychologists have found that assertive behavior, voicing your needs, setting boundaries, boosts confidence and reduces stress. People who defy norms feel more in control, their self-worth growing. Each act of defiance chips at your chains, revealing the power beneath. This takes courage, but start small. Say no to one request this week, not out of anger, but to honor your needs. Or share an unpopular opinion with a friend, feeling the fear, but speaking anyway. Nietzsche saw life as a forge for your strength, where every risk shapes you. In his writings, he praised those who dare to stand alone, crafting their own values. Try this. Write down one obedient habit, agreeing too quickly, avoiding tough talks. Then list a step to break it, like pausing before saying yes or starting a hard conversation. These acts are your rebellion, your claim to power. Fear might whisper, defiance will cost me. Friends, status, safety. That's the web, scaring you back in a line. Nietzsche knew freedom has a price, but obedience costs your soul. Think of rebels like Socrates, questioning Athens' norms despite the consequences, or modern figures who left toxic systems to build their own paths. Their strength came from defiance, not compliance. Psychologists note that breaking conformity fosters self-actualization, aligning you with your true self. Defiance isn't loss, it's liberation, creating a life where your fire burns bright. You'll stumble. Old habits, apologizing too much, seeking approval, will creep back. That's human, but each defiance strengthens you. Nietzsche would call this your overman rising, the self that transcends the herd. Picture a blacksmith forging a blade. Every strike, even the clumsy ones, sharpens it. Your power is that blade, honed by every act of will. You've tasted it before, saying no, standing firm, and you can again. Each step, like risking a bold move or rejecting a pointless rule, breaks another link in your chains, bringing you closer to your untamed self. The mist swirls as you walk, Nietzsche's path alive in you. You're not just obeying anymore. You're defying, reclaiming the strength society buried. The streets wait, the childhood's lessons all point to this moment, where you choose power over compliance. But how do you make this defiance your life? How do you live your strength every day, unbowed and free? The mist parts as you stand in a quiet forest clearing, dawn's light filtering through ancient trees. The cities hum a distant memory. That spark from the rain-soaked street, the defiance of saying no, the weight of silenced truths. They all converge here, a fire proving you were never weak, only taught to obey. The childhoods be quiet, the workplaces nod, the gathering silence led to this moment, where you choose to live unchained. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his fierce call to become who you are, urges you to make this your life, to embrace your authentic power daily, rejecting obedience for truth. Your strength isn't a fleeting act, it's your essence, and living it now feels like breathing freely, wild and unyielding as the forest around you. Defiance has shaped you already. Picture yesterday when you left a draining conversation early, prioritizing your peace, your step lighter with quiet triumph. Or recall a moment you shared a bold idea at work, risking doubt but standing firm, your voice clear despite the tension. These were your power unleashed, echoes of Nietzsche's vision. He saw life as a canvas for your will to power, where you create, assert, thrive by forging your own path, not following society's script. Living unchained means making every day a stand, choosing your truth over comfort, your fire over the web's pull. Make it your rhythm. Each dawn, pause like you're in this clearing and ask, what's one way I'll claim my power today? Maybe it's skipping a pointless obligation to pursue your passion, or speaking a hard truth to a friend, even if it stings. Act on it, no matter how small. Nietzsche would call this living deliberately, crafting a life where you shine. Psychologists have found that consistent self-assertion rewires your brain, boosting self-worth and resilience. People who live authentically report deeper purpose, stronger connections. Your power grows with every choice to be you, not a shadow of the herd. Build habits to stay free. Keep a notebook, jotting one daily defiance, saying no, chasing a goal, standing tall. Or before agreeing to anything, ask, does this serve my truth? Nietzsche praised those who create their own values, who live as artists of their fate. Try this. List 3 obedient habits, pleasing others, avoiding risk, silencing yourself. Then pick one to break this week, like starting a bold project or ending a toxic tie. These acts are your brushstrokes, painting a life where your strength blazes. You've done it before, pushed back, felt your fire, and each step makes it your nature. Fear might linger. Will defiance isolate me? Society claims rebellion costs belonging, but Nietzsche flips this. True connection comes from power, not submission. When you live authentically, you draw those who value your truth, not your mask. Psychologists note that authenticity fosters richer relationships, as people respect those who stand firm. Think of someone whose presence inspires, not because they conform, but because they're fiercely themselves. By embracing your power, you become that light, guiding others to break their chains. Your defiance doesn't divide, it creates. Stumbles will come. Some days you'll bow, agree to please, hide your truth, feel the web tighten. That's life's pulse. But each fall teaches you to rise stronger. Nietzsche saw struggle as the forge of greatness, not a flaw. Picture a river carving stone. Every clash shapes it. Your power is that river, unstoppable with each act of will. Live deliberately, choosing truth over obedience, and your fire will burn brighter, unquenchable. The world will resist, but you're not weak. You never were. You're a force, ready to live free every day. Dawn's light warms the clearing. Nietzsche's truth, your heartbeat. You're not just breaking chains. You're living your power, forging a life where you are wild, true you. The street's defiance, the childhood's weight, all led here, where obedience fades and your strength reigns. Nietzsche's searing wisdom is a mirror. You were never weak. You were taught to obey, chained by a world that feared your fire. You've traced how childhood molded you, how society's web held you, how conformity cost your spark. But you've also learned to defy, to reclaim your power, to live as your untamed self. Look inward. Stop bowing to rules that dim you. Choose one defiance daily. Speak your truth, chase your will, stand firm, and watch your strength roar. The world will tempt you to comply, but you're fiercer than its lies. Keep forging your path, and you'll live free, alive, unchained. Power is not your dream, it's your truth.